Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafting with Slavie, where we make cards and other paper crafts. In today's card video, we're going to be making this really sparkly card. I took some Nina colored cardstock. This is a 65-pound weight, and I darkened up the edges with evergreen bough. And I have to say, I really enjoyed this card. It's a different color combination for me, so it was nice to explore. And I made a whole bunch of backgrounds. So this is one of them. You can kind of see that I've been using this stencil for other things. I'm using Decofoil Transfer Gel in Blanco here. And I'm putting on a layer. This is the Lawn Fawn Snowflake Stencils. Background stencils? Yes, I think so. Anyway, I've listed it below so that you can go check it out if you choose. And I put on a layer of the transfer gel, and then I'm gonna do some hot foiling here with my laminators. So I am just attaching these to some silver foil with some washi tape, and here's my laminator just getting heated up, and I'm using just some parchment paper to kind of use as my carrier to get these panels through my laminator and come out really shiny. I did a lot of these backgrounds, so it's definitely a good idea to do this en masse, because you have to wait for the transfer gel to dry for a minimum of 1 hour. I actually find that the longer you let it dry, the better the results, but you can't let it dry for longer than 12 hours. So definitely start this at the start of your session. And here is the result. I just love how sparkly these snowflakes are. And then when that was done, I actually put them back on my Make Art station, and I went in with the part 2 of this stencil, and I used the Gina K Glitz glitter gel in white. However, and you'll notice this shortly here, it is super dry. I tried adding water, but it really mucked up my stencil. Like, the stencil's still usable, but if you like your stencils to be pristine, this one I definitely had to put in a lot of elbow grease to get the Glitz glitter gel off. I love the result. The result was beautiful, but I need to figure out a way to rehydrate my Glitz glitter gel, because I sadly just don't use my pastes enough, I think, and it ends up costing me in a way. But look at how pretty that is. So I let that dry off. And then I did this a few days later. I prepped all of my images and I cut them out using my scan and cut. And I'm using my Misty to reposition because I was stamping out a whole bunch. I'm also putting a sub-sentiment inside of the inside the card here. And then I got onto the coloring. But what I wanted to mention is that I did do this prep, all of this prep beforehand, so that it was really nice, because when it came time to assemble, I just grabbed a couple things and I kind of threw the card together, and it made the process a little bit easier. So I was actually able to work on it on weeknights when I normally don't have any time to do card making, just with, you know, household responsibilities and having to pick up my kid from school or daycare and all that stuff. So I'm going to let you enjoy this part, and I will be back for the card assembly. Okay, so when the white gel pen highlighting was done and all of my images were colored, I started assembling the card. I'm placing my white panel inside of my card bases, which are made out of Nina Reentry red cardstock. And again, this is 65-pound cardstock, so I like to reinforce it on the inside, as well as the color, so it's nicer to write on white cardstock than it is to write on red. So I just made that change. And then I die cut these panels out using the Lawn Fawn outside in stitched rectangle stackables. Now a note on this, because my cutting plates need to be replaced, they actually left a little bit of texture on that foiled snowflake part. I liked it, but if that's something that would bother you, I recommend cutting down your panels prior to doing your stenciling so that you don't encounter that after you foil. And then I went ahead and I die cut this Merry Christmas out of the same Reentry red Nina's cardstock, and I layered it 3 to a piece, and then I decided that I wanted to add some snow. So I'm using my anti-static powder tool there and some quickie glue pen here to basically heat emboss snow. So I have this wonderful product from Wow Embossing Powder. This is like a chunky embossing powder in opaque white, and it kind of creates globs, and you'll see that in a minute here when I start to use my heat tool. And it actually prompted me to get a new heat tool. So up until now I had been using this black one, which is just a general, it has 1 speed, it just goes really, really hot, kind of like the Wagner ones that you hear about. And I actually got the Wow embossing heat tool because it's got the dual speeds. This technique here, because of how quickly it blows the air, I think it would be better with the dual speed, just because it wouldn't blow away and you can control how the snow puffs up. And that's the other cool thing about this, is that it actually puffs up so it looks like snow. Look at how cool that is. And then, because I can't help myself and glittering all the things, I went ahead and I added some Prisma glitter to a bunch of my images. I think the only ones that got away with not having glitter on them on this card were actually Mrs. Claus holding the plate of cookies. And in retrospect, I probably should have glittered the plate that the cookies are sitting on. Or not. I mean, you know, each his own, but I just love to glitter this way using a quickie glue pen. And I got these this technique from Jen Shirkus. I just love it. It's so easy and it adds so much life to these cards. So I highly recommend it if you haven't tried glittering before. And of course, Rudolph and his red nose, had to glitter that. Especially since I don't really have red glitter stickles or anything like that. So, you know, maybe for next year. Maybe for next year. All right, and when all of this was done, I kind of threw my images together, and I started by attaching the things that go together, because it makes assembly much, much easier. And you'll see that I had a little helper there. That's my daughter just admiring the images for all their shiny goodness. And I didn't realize until I started editing these videos how much she just shows up in so many of these card videos. Not that I'm complaining. It's just funny. All right, so again, just attaching everything together, and in a little bit here, I'm going to show you the layout. And I just find that this is really, really helpful, as I mentioned. And then I didn't put glitter on the milk, and it definitely needed glitter. You ever have that where you have to go back and glitter more? I do. It's a bit of a problem. All right, so we are all ready. I popped everything up because I knew I wanted all of my images raised, just using some foam squares here. And then it came time to assemble. So I added a liquid glue to the back of my sentiment. Because of the amount of texture on the card, I knew that I wanted to use liquid glue to make sure that it stuck down. And then I used a heavy block to make sure that it adhered nice and even. I then removed the adhesive from these foam squares, or the backing from the foam squares, and I attached my images. And you would have seen me there. I definitely measured to make sure that when Santa was standing on top of the C and the H, that he wouldn't overlap the card. So just checking for height, making sure that everything fits nicely. And here's my finished card. I love it so much, and I hope the recipient does too. And it was a lot of fun to play with different techniques. And the snow, love the snow. I hope you guys try it out. And I have a new card video coming up next.